Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Halloween edition of my top waiver wire targets and streamable defenses for week 9 of this NFL season. As always, guys, you know what to expect. I'm going to give you guys my top waiver wire ads at the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and the flex position. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and dive right into that video. As I always like to do, just in case I have any first-time listeners, these players I do speak about, they have to have at least 50% roster availability. So there's a good chance that they are out there available on your market. And this is per the Yahoo leagues. With that being said, there are a couple of repeat names from last week, but I think the amount of touches they've gotten show that they should have more roster ownership heading into this week 9 of this football season. That being said, I am going to start at the quarterback position, though. My top quarterback out of the week, I am going to go with that rookie quarterback there in Tennessee, Will Levis. He is available in 95% of the leagues. It has been confirmed that he will be starting this Thursday night against the Steelers. Obviously, he blew up in those Oiler uniforms this past weekend. He threw for 238 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he does have this rushing ability, one of the underrated parts of his game. But he did pick up many yards. He only had 11 yards on 7 rushes, but that is there if he does have to take off if he's feeling any pressure from the Steelers defensive front. Now, he doesn't really draw the best matchup. Steelers are only giving up 15.2 points per game to quarterbacks this year. That's in the bottom half of the league as far as points allowed. But with how many quarterback injuries are going on that happened this past weekend, I think 5 quarterbacks left the game. Kirk Cousins is done for the season. We'll have to see if Matthew Stafford is able to play or not this week. So if you are looking for a replacement option, or maybe your quarterback is on a bye, I definitely would consider Will Levis. Obviously, we got to see what a ceiling performance would be out of him. Now, I wouldn't bet on him being your long-term answer because there has been no confirmation that this will be Will Levis's job even when Ryan Tannehill gets healthy. But the Titans will definitely have to have a decision to make if they beat the Steelers and Levis does repeat this performance. But again, we're coming off a week with injuries and entering back into bye weeks. So if you need quarterback help this week, I definitely would maybe consider taking a chance on the Titans rookie quarterback. My running back out of the week, same as last week, I'm going to go stick with Darrell Henderson Jr. He's available in 55% of the leagues. This past weekend, he had 12 rushes for 31 yards, but he did all of his production through the air. He had 3 receptions for 54 yards on 3 targets. Now, since he's been back with LA and since Kyren Williams obviously went to the IR, he has gotten at least 15 touches in these last 2 games. He does have a great matchup this week against the Packers. The Packers are giving up 19.5 points per game to running backs this year, which is the 7th most allowed. So he's a very solid flex play. And I do believe, too, even if Stafford plays or if it is one of these backup quarterbacks, whether it's Brett Rippon or that the kid I just saw right before I hopped on here that they signed, he won't be playing, but maybe if injuries force him on the field. I think what the Rams are going to do is I think they're going to lean into the rush. And then what's also going to be able to play into Henderson being more valuable is they're going to utilize him like they did this past weekend in the screen game, regardless of who's at quarterback, because Matthew Stafford, he hurt his thumb. So there is maybe in my opinion, I'm not a doctor, but is he going to be able to drive the ball down the field out of his hand with that hurt thumb? So they may be looking to work more of the short and intermediate passing attack in LA, which could benefit and give more targets in the air for Darrell Henderson this weekend. My wide receiver ad of the week. This might be premature on him, but I think maybe it's time to maybe get him on rosters and stash him at least. But I'm going with a rookie wide receiver with the Chargers, Quentin Johnston. He's available in 81% of the leagues. Obviously, he has not lived up to that first round billing. He has not performed, even though Mike Williams has been hurt for some time. But I think now you also got to factor in, First of all, anybody that follows me know I love year three wide receivers because it does take wide receivers to, get acclimated to the NFL. But it does sometimes does take rookies, regardless of what position, to get acclimated to the scheme, be able to pick up the offense, the call signals and whatnot. So maybe I'm not saying that is the reason. I'm not for sure, but maybe that is the reason why we've seen Johnson slowly kind of work into this offense. But this past weekend, he had 5 receptions for 50 yards on 6 targets. This was actually his first game that he had more than 4 targets. They need him to be more involved in this offense. Joshua Palmer's been playing banged up. So I would not be surprised if we're going to start seeing a consistent target load for him. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more targets coming his way. So instead of having to maybe push to get Johnson on your roster in like a week or 2 weeks when he has 6-7 receptions for 120 yards and a touchdown, maybe you stash him now and see how his role grows. Now if you need to play a wide receiver, I wouldn't necessarily count on him because he hasn't got the targets, and they are going against the Jets this weekend, who are allowing the fewest amount points per game against wide receivers this year. But Johnson, definitely, I think if you need some wide receiver depth and you really have questions about your depth on your bench, I would consider swapping a player out for Johnston on my bench going forward. My tight end out of the week, I'm gonna go with Trey McBride. He's a second-year tight end for the Arizona Cardinals. He's available in 79% of the leagues. He's a tight end I actually really liked in the draft class of last year. He got picked in the second round, but he kind of, first of all, tight ends, just like wide receivers, they can kind of take some time, but obviously Zach Ertz has been there, and that has kind of taken away from him having a full-time role as the lead tight end for Arizona. But now that Ertz just got placed on IR, so that means he's out for at least the minimum of the next 3 games. All of a sudden, he blows up in that tight end 1 role for the Cardinals. This past weekend, he had 10 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown on 14 targets. So anytime I see those double-digit targets for tight ends, I'm like, ooh, let's see what this is all about. And then even though Ertz was, on the roster the 2 games prior, over the last 3 games, McBride has actually gotten at least 5 targets. So you're starting to see his role kind of be, not only was growing with Ertz on the roster, and then soon as Ertz gets on the IR, all of a sudden his role just expand big time. Now this weekend they do draw a tough matchup against the Browns. The Browns are only giving up 3.7 points per game to tight ends. That's the fewest across the NFL. But if he's going to see those double-digit targets, I think he's definitely would be a roll of the dice. Now it doesn't sound like Kyler Murray is going to play this week, but I think Kyler Murray will be back. I think their bye is this following week, and then he's supposed to be back on the 12th. I think I saw that. So once Kyler gets in there too, that will give you more of a consistent quarterback too that you can trust, that's tied to McBride. So, and there are quite a bit of number of good tight ends that are on bye weeks this week. George Kittle's on a bye, Evan Ingram's on a bye, Darren Waller, we'll have to see about his hamstring injury if he's able to play. So you're talking about 3 top 10 fantasy tight ends. So if you're looking for some help, I would maybe go consider picking up McBride off the waivers. Sticking in Arizona, this was a name I talked about last week. My flex out of the week, I'm going to go with Amari DiMarcado for the Cardinals. He's available in 64% of the leagues. This past weekend, he had 20 rushes for 78 yards, and he had 1 reception for a yard on 1 target. Now, over the last 2 games, he's gotten 38 touches. So anytime I see a running back that's getting 15 to 20 plus touches, that definitely is on my radar. So if you are looking for some running back depth, and we don't know when James Conner is going to be back off the IR, this looks like right now the Cardinals running back for at least the intermediate future. So I think he's definitely worth an ad to put on your bench. He's more of a low-end flex play if you do need him. Doesn't necessarily have the best matchup this week going against the Browns, who are only allowing 13.8 points per game to running backs. That's in the bottom half of the league. But yeah, either way, he should have some more roster ownership, especially for if you have a fantasy lineup, or a fantasy football roster that you are really lacking depth at the running back position. So yeah, that is my top waiver wire ad. So let's go ahead and move into the top streamable defenses. And just like those players, these defenses, they do have to have at least 50% roster availability on Yahoo. So let's go ahead and go into the top defense of the week. I am going to go with the Raiders against the Giants. The Raiders are available in 85% of the leagues. Now, it does sound like Daniel Jones will be back in the lineup, but you're talking about one of the worst and banged up offensive lines of this season, who have given up they're right now tied with the Commanders for the most sacks allowed in this year. And then you also like to factor in too is the Giants, they're only averaging 11.9 points per game this season. So they haven't been putting up points. They've been giving up a lot of sacks. And then of course too, Daniel Jones has been very down this season. So there's sack potential, there's turnover potential, and then you also like to have the floor that this defense could give you, since the Giants have struggled to put points on the board this year. My second one, even though they did disappoint last week against the Titans, I would maybe still consider the Falcons this week against the Vikings, strictly because of the Kirk Cousins injury. The Falcons are available in 68% of the leagues. Even though the Vikings did trade for Josh Dobbs today, Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Vikings, confirmed that the rookie quarterback Jaren Hall will be the quarterback that starts the game. So anytime you can get a rookie quarterback in his first game, I'm all about streaming of the defense, because that does lead to potential, turnovers. Rookies always make mistakes. They can tend to hold on to the ball longer than they should, which does lead to sacks. And then as a team, this season, the Vikings are tied for the third most giveaways. So they've been proven that they will turn the ball over if given the opportunity. So I do think the Falcons could be a sneaky streaming play this week. My third streaming defense of the week, I am going to go with the Titans against the Steelers. The Titans are available in 98% of the leagues. Now, it does sound like Kenny Pickett is going to play on Thursday night, but that doesn't necessarily scare me. Now, obviously, I would really like the Titans more if it was going to be Mitch Trubisky, but similar to that Giants team, the Steelers are struggling on offense. They're only scoring 16.1 points per game this season. That is the fourth fewest in the league. So they're not putting up points. It's an offense that is very inconsistent. You can always get a sack here and there. You could always maybe get a potential turnover. That Titans have a great front seven, so I like the factor of maybe Jeffrey Simmons being dominant with Danico Autry and Harold Landry off the edge. So if you don't maybe get some of the top streaming defenses out there, I would definitely consider Tennessee's. My number 4 streaming defense, I am going to go with the Patriots against the Commanders. The Patriots are available in 73% of the leagues. And then there's a big reason why is, I forget, I don't have the stat in front of me, but like Bill Belichick's record against first year and second year quarterbacks is ridiculous. I think he's only lost less than 10 games to first or second year quarterbacks, if my memory's serving me right. So, and this game is in New England as well. So I just see the history of young quarterbacks struggling against a Bill Belichick defense, making this a great streaming play. And then, of course, too, like I mentioned, the Commanders are tied for the most sacks allowed this season. So there is the sack potential here. And then also, too, maybe it doesn't lead into this Commanders offense having a letdown game, but the fact that the Commanders traded away Montez Sweat and Chase Young today, doesn't that signal to the rest of the roster that they're throwing in the towel on this season? So I'm players are going to play. Players will never tank. But are they going to be playing with all their heart in this matchup? I do wonder if that could maybe lead to some inconsistencies out of the Washington offense for the Patriots to take advantage of on Sunday. My number 5 streaming defense, I'm going to go with the Chargers against the Jets. The Chargers are available in 74% of the leagues right now. They definitely ended up being a pretty quality streaming defense against this Bears this past weekend. And it's mainly, the Jets are struggling on offense, right? They have the pieces. That's what does worry about me. I will say this Chargers defense, this would be more for a 12-team, a 14-team league where there's limited options out there for you, because the Jets offense just scares me because of Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. But why I'm willing to stream him is because of Zach Wilson, right? He leads. He's a lot not a lot, but he's playing better than what people are giving him crap for. But he's still not lighting up the scoreboard, even though he has pieces within this offense. But another factor is too, the Jets just lost two more I don't even think they were starters. I think they were backups that replaced the original starters that got hurt, and then they got hurt. They're down to like third, fourth string offensive linemen right now. They are currently tied for the fifth most sacks allowed. That's kind of one of the things that Zach Wilson is still trying to improve upon, is getting the ball out of his hands in a timely manner. That's why they do give up those sacks, combined with a banged up offensive line. So yeah, I would definitely consider the Chargers defense this week against that Jets offense. All right, guys, that is this week's video. My top waiver wire ads and streamable defenses of week 9. If you enjoyed this video, as always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button on all my social media platforms. If there were any players on the waivers or any streaming defenses I did not speak about, you want to get my opinion on, you can always get in the comments, or you can get into a DM, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. As always, guys, you'll see me tomorrow night when I do my top starts and sits for this week. I'll talk to you then. Have a happy Halloween. Be safe. Peace out.